Going on, guys? Welcome back to another Sunday watch list. Now that the slow week is over and that the FOMC week is over, short weeks and the FOMC just tend not to have the best price action. There was good setups here and there on the week. But going into this week, right, we don't have much economic data apart from looking at this. We do have, oh, it looks like we have Jerome Powell on Wednesday again. So that's something to be aware of. So that's going to be big. And we have non-farm payrolls on Friday. So we actually do have some economic data this week. Friday's a big one. Wednesday is also a big one. So for the most part, we got to be careful on those days. Remember the 10 a.m., 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You always got to be aware of those as well. Going into the charts, SPY formed a shooting star off of the previous all-time high here at 524 on the daily. Go to the 4 hour, you can see that we are rejecting this area. So this is going to be like my new supply resistance zone, 524, 524.63. I needed to reclaim and hold above that before I start going long. Because anything in between here, I'm not really liking. It's just like a slow, we don't get the best price action in here. As you can see on the hourly, we don't get, right? It's just sideways movement from here. Not the biggest reactions. The big reactions happen up here and down here. So if I go back to the 4 hour, you'll see that this 518 level could potentially still come back to retest if this is gonna, right? Definitely still want to pay attention to this 518. That would be the target if we do sell off from this 524. I believe we also have, so we draw on any trend lines or anything. Something from here to there. We got 2 touches on this one so far. We need a third one around this area to confirm. That can give us some confluence if we are taking a bounce in this 518. For the most part, watches on SPY is pretty simple. Break and retest above 524 for move higher, or continue to take rejects if it shows weakness up here. Bounces at 518 if it starts to slow down here to catch the move back up, right? Because on the weekly chart, this still looks super bullish. Like, even though it looks bearish on the daily with that candle, on the weekly, this is still showing a lot of strength. On the monthly, like this is still going crazy, right? Not a single red month in the past 5 months. We'll see what April brings, but we haven't had a red month in the past 5 months. April is coming up though. Daily chart. We just gotta see how we react around these levels. QQQ, right? Similar game plan. We're failing to get above this 449. 448 area. So this is going to be like my supply up here. This is going to be my supply, 448, 449. I'll continue to take rejections off this area. If it shows weakness, back down into 440. You see 440, this trend line that I have here. We have 1 touch, 2, 3. I want to see if we can get a 4th hold off of this for a move back up into that area, or the break and retest above that area gets us higher, right? If we were to break this 440 and this trend line, then that opens up room back down into this demand here at 434, where we can see that we have multiple bounces in the past. So we can either take bounces back up, or if it gets really weak, break and retest back down, right? Those are my main levels of interest. I'm not interested in trading in between these areas. Main levels of interest is here, here, and here. Anywhere else, I won't be interested in. It's not high probability for me as far as risk reward ratios go. So pretty simple game plan on those two. Going into some big names, let's go into Apple. Apple, you can see, has just been on a downtrend, really been on a downtrend the whole year, basically, right? We kind of tried getting above this trend line up here, fell back below it. The big demand zone we're looking at here on Apple is going to be here, because we can see here clearly that when we come down into here, it's like 168 to 165. This is where the buyers stepped in aggressively here, and look what they did here. Right here, it didn't fully come into it. So if we were to come back into this area, that is my level of interest for Apple to, start going long on this name. It's been on a downtrend the whole year. Got to see what it wants to do, but that is my main level of interest for Apple here. at 168, 165 area. Pretty simple game plan. If it does break below, let's see. No, yeah, I'll mainly watch that level for a bounce. Kind of looks like a head and shoulders right here. So I was thinking like maybe a short into that level, but I don't think it's really worth it. I'd say the bounce will provide more value. Or if it does break below that area, then that opens doors down to like 160. So we'll see what we get off that level. Amazon, it's kind of been slow, but it is pushing towards highs at 185, 188. Microsoft, looks like it's getting a pullback for now. I'm not really seeing any major setup. Probably a retest of that trend line looks like it's coming for. We'll see what it does. Now, NVIDIA, these names I'm going to have on high watch again because, semiconductors are really moving the market right now. You can see that from last week's watch list, we broke out of this triangle here, pushed back into the highs at 971, 974, and we rejected from that area previously, and we rejected again here. The next demand zone is down here at this 850 area, this 850, 859 area, pretty big zone. Right now we're currently at a trend line as well. We have a bounce here, big move up, a bounce here. We had a decent move up, and we want to see what happens off this third touch of the trend line. Do we get another push up? Does it hold? That's what I'll be watching to see if this holds or not. If it does not hold, I think it kind. I think it might. I think it might hold and push higher. But if it doesn't, below Friday's lows, gives you a push back down to here, which is also a good move either way. So that is something that I'm interested for NVIDIA. It looks pretty good. You can see Friday tried holding that level, so we'll see how it holds that area. See how we hold up. Going into AMD, I'm liking this setup a lot more. This is one of my favorite setups going into the week. Probably the one that I'm most likely going to trade because this has room to either direction. I have a setup. Whatever AMD does, I can take a trade. I could take a trade whether it starts rejecting this supply here. Notice how it rejects every single time up here. It rejects up here. It rejects here. When we're above it, it catches a bounce here. Currently, this whole week, we failed to get above it, right? We rejected, rejected, rejected. So if this continues to show weakness up here, we can catch a reject back down. Or if it finally starts to reverse this downtrend, because like we've been making lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. If this fails to make a new lower low, and if breaks above this previous high, we can take the break and retest to start catching this move back into 195, 200, 205. That's going to be a good reversal on AMD if that does start to play out. Now, if this does reject this area and gets below this 173, that's going to open door down to 163, which is also a great move, right? This is about a $10 move down. So either way AMD goes, I'm really liking the setup. We just got to wait. We just got to be patient and wait for confirmation on this setup. Risk reward on either way it goes is good. Either that, or even a bounce down here. So that's my favorite setup going into the week. Meta's looking a little bit weaker. We're approaching this 480 area that has held as demand. Probably see how it reacts there. Broke this trend line, so I don't know. We got to see what happens with Meta here. This one's a little bit weaker than the rest. Google 153 was a big rejection zone. Not my favorite setup, but if it were to get there, that could be interesting. Tesla, right? Pretty much been slow all year as well. Going into this 152 area is where I'd still be interested in. I'm not really interested yet for longs on Tesla. Once it gets to 153, 152, I think that's where I'll potentially start positioning myself for longs. I do have one more setup that I really like. It's Target. Target was showing a lot of strength last week. Broke out of this falling wedge, as you can see, and we have to apply at this 185 to, sorry, not 185, 183 to 181 area. You can see here, 183 to 181. We're approaching it right now. every time we come to that area, we get rejected. But currently we're coming up with some strength. So if we break and retest this area, we have a gap fill on the daily. You could see on the daily chart, pretty much have a gap fill to 200. So, right, I'd like to catch this move to 200 if we get some type of confirmation of a break and hold above this area. This one's going to take a little bit of patience, but we have to see how, we just got to see how this one plays out. Other than that, if you want a risky play that I kind of do like, you know, it's a SMCI mostly because we are at a psychological level here, which is 1000. You could see that the reactions here, when we're below it, we reject it. When we're above it, we bounce off of it. When we're below it, we reject it. Currently, we're above it. We want to see if we hold it, right? Look at the move it gets when we're above it, right? So we want to see if we catch this back into 1100 from here. This is a high risk play. Not really high risk, it's just more expensive for new traders, right? You can just, it's not high risk at all if you're comfortable with this here. If you're comfortable with risking from, let's say you enter around 1000 and your stop's at 975, let's say, you're risking about $25 on SMCI, which is kind of a lot, right? It is kind of a lot. So if you buy a contract for like 1500, you can easily lose like 500 bucks. But if you buy the contract for 1500 and it goes this way, you could easily make like 1500 to 2K on this one. Not even trying to look at it that way though, right? I'm just giving you guys a perspective on what type of stock and how this moves. You know, you're not supposed to think of it like in the money perspective. You're supposed to think of it from a risk reward perspective. From a risk reward perspective, this is a 3-to-1 risk reward ratio. So I kind of like this one. Other than that, that's gonna be a Sunday watch list. I hope you guys all have a great trading week and trade safe. AMD is gonna be my favorite title for the week. Peace.